Council Committee on Strong Women, Families, and Communities. Today is February 13th, 2025, and the time is 2:07. This hearing is being recorded. It is being live streamed at boston.gov/city-council-tv and broadcast on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, and FiOS Channel 964. Written comments may be sent to the committee email at ccc.swfc@boston.gov and will be made part of the record and available to all councilors. Public testimony will be taken at the end of this hearing. Individuals will be called on in the order in which they signed up and will have 2 minutes to testify. If you're interested in testifying in person, please add your name to the sign-up sheet near the entrance of the chamber. And if you're looking to testify virtually, please email our Central Staff Liaison, Megan Kavanaugh, at meghan.kavanaugh, KAVANAGH, at boston.gov for the link, and your name will be added to the list. Today's hearing is on docket 0317, in order for a hearing to discuss elderly scamming. This matter was sponsored by Councilors Ed Flynn, Councilor Mejia, and myself, Councilor Murphy, and was referred to the committee on January 29, 2025. Today, I am joined by my colleagues in order of arrival. We have Councilor Flynn and myself. I do know that Councilor Mejia has sent an absent letter, and where she was an original co-sponsor, I'll read her letter into the record. Dear Madam Chair and members of the Committee on Strong Women, Families, and Communities, I am writing to inform you of my absence during today's City Council hearing on docket 0317 in order for a hearing to discuss elderly scamming. I remain deeply committed to addressing elderly scamming and ensuring that we continue supporting our elders by doing everything in our power to prevent them from being taken advantage of, and I sincerely appreciate the leadership and efforts of my colleagues, particularly the lead sponsors, in advancing this important work. And I'd like to also say we've been joined by Councilor Fitzgerald. Thank you. We'll start with any opening remarks from my colleagues, and then we'll introduce the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for your leadership and for co-sponsoring this hearing with me, along with Councilor Mejia as well. Today, I hope we can discuss the issue of elderly scamming, also known as elder fraud. I'd like to hear from our respected panelists about how common this occurrence is, what recourse our elders can seek, and what preventive measures and community outreach are in place to raise awareness and protect our senior community regarding these scams. Language access is also an important part of this conversation, as many of our seniors may speak a language other than English, and scams may be targeted at them in their native languages. Last year, the Boston Police, I know, reported that Boston residents have paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for various types of scams, whether it's home improvement scams, romance scams. Some seniors have been manipulated into paying home repair work that upwards of $20,000, $30,000. This is commonplace across the country, where seniors fall victim to financial fraud every day, racking up more than $3 billion in losses. These scams come in the form of, as I mentioned, romance, lottery, sweepstakes, as well as home repair, banking, insurance, utility scams. Our seniors have the right to age in place and feel safe in their homes and communities without the disruption of people that are trying to exploit them. It is critical that we raise awareness and help our seniors recognize the signs of different types of fraud. I want to say thank you to the panel for being here, but more importantly for the important work you do in the neighborhoods of Boston every day. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councilor Fitzgerald?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you all for being here to discuss this topic today, as it's obviously increased a lot in recent years and is only evolving and becoming smarter and more manipulative. My wife actually, ironically, texted me this morning, you go through a toll at all lately? You have a late charge. And she's really just wondering where I was. Where the hell did you go? But it was also the fact that, like I said, no, and I pretty sure this is a scam, and this is one of those things. So I can imagine even for folks that are not elderly, that are sort of starting to question it. I mean, that's how manipulative it's getting, that folks that are not as fine-tuned to being, computer literate and all that stuff, how could it be even more easy? So look forward to the conversation today, and again, thank you all for all the work you're doing on this.
Thank you. Also want to get right into your testimony. But before we go through the panel, I did just want to introduce Edmund Donnelly. He is non-administration. I did meet him a couple weeks ago. I think you've been to several senior events across the city, but the A1 Police were hosting an event at the, we don't call it, what do we call it, in Charlestown? It's the Beverly Gibbons, yes, the Beverly Gibbons Center with the seniors from AT&T. So he was doing a program with our seniors, which I thought was wonderful. Yeah, I think 2 hours in and they were still like really engaged and learning a lot. So thank you for being here. But we'll start from one end down. If you could just introduce yourselves, say your official title, and then you can all give your opening remarks. Thank you.
My name is Sebastian LaChance. I'm from the Mayor's Office of Consumer Affairs, and I'm a consumer advocate.
Thank you.
Hi, folks. Emily Shea. I'm the Age Strong Commissioner.
Good afternoon, Nicole Grant, Deputy Superintendent of the Bureau of Community Engagement of the Boston Police Department.
Good afternoon, Deputy Superintendent Gerald Cahill, Assistant Bureau Chief of the Boston Police Bureau of Intelligence Analysis, which most people understand is which holds the Boston Regional Intelligence Center inside it, also known as the BRIC.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Edmund Donnelly. I'm the Director of External Affairs for AT&T, covering Massachusetts and Rhode Island.
Awesome, thank you. And my colleagues did touch on a lot of the reasons why we're here. And when you mentioned Councilor Fitzgerald, a month ago or so, that text came out about like a $4 parking fee, and thousands of us got it. So it is true that it's not just our seniors, but many times seniors fall prey. They also, feel embarrassed if they do follow through and realize that they've been scammed. So it would be great today to get some information, and I know, thank you to the BRIC and the police for being here, because I know you have a lot of data on what our seniors are seeing and how we can support and protect them will be great. So whoever would like to start first, if you want to start at the one end, yeah, thank you.
I can go first. Good afternoon, councilors. The Mayor's Office of Consumer Affairs works in partnership with the Massachusetts Attorney General's Office. Our mission is to educate the residents of Boston on avoiding scams and being able to identify them. We're typically found via the City of Boston website. They contact us either via email, phone. They file their complaints with the Attorney General's office, which then get filtered down to our office for mediation. We specifically work using mediation. We can't make any forceful statements to the businesses to enforce them to do anything. The goal is to have a conversation between both the residents and the business to help find some sort of amicable resolution. We also have a lot of outreach initiatives to help get the information to the residents, especially seniors. We do work closely with Age Strong Veteran Services, the Office of Youth Advancement, and we also ensure that if we have a resident who speaks a language other than English, that we provide interpretation service, as well as having all of our educational material translated for them as well. We've had a significant impact with our residents over the last couple of years, especially in fiscal year 23-24. We had a successful close rate of over 1,000 cases that were sent to us through the Attorney General's office, and we're helped to save or recover just under $260,800 that went back into the residents' pockets. As well as this year so far, we've closed about 605 cases, and we have successfully recovered a little over $100,000 for the residents thus far. And a really good example of what we were able to achieve. was we had an elderly man who happened to be from Quincy. Typically, we don't service Quincy, but we do not turn anyone who calls us away. We want to make sure the information is given to them, and that way they can get the best assistance possible. He called us after he realized he was scammed out of about $70,000. We were able to help get him in contact with the FBI, the postal inspector, and they were able to discover that the scam was originated in California. And because we expressed the urgency of how quickly he needed to act when contacting the agencies, he was actually able to recover that $70,000.
Good, thank you.
Hi, Chair Murphy, councilors. So I'm very happy to be here today. I just ran on back from
thank you
a Hyde
for-
Park listening session for this.
I appreciate that. I know that you had something earlier, but thank you for being here.
No, but I think it's important, and I really appreciate you elevating this issue. The session I was at allows us to hear directly from older adults about their needs, concerns, and priorities so that we can make sure that our work is aligning with their voice. And I think that we do hear about this issue, so I think it's important that you're talking about it here, and hopefully folks at home are listening in, and we can use this for education as well. Every day, more and more older residents, and more residents, but especially older residents, are falling victim to scams, and scammers are becoming increasingly creative and bold in their tactics. We're fortunate to have strong partners in this fight, both within the city, such as our BPD friends and Consumer Affairs, and externally with organizations like our AT&T partners. Together, we're committed to ensuring older adults have the tools not only to take preventative measures in avoiding scams, but also to the know-how to recognize fraudulent activity, respond accordingly, and report scammers. It's essential that we continue to raise awareness, provide accessible resources, and work together on scams. And at the Age Strong Commission, we do this in a few different ways. So first, we work collectively with many groups to educate older adults about scam prevention and to connect people to resources if they've been scammed. In the past year, we participated in multiple community education scam events, and I know Councillor Flynn, I saw you at one of them, with partners including the Pension Action Center, the state's Office of Consumer Affairs and Business Regulation, the FTC, the DA's office, the Asian American Civic Association, banks, the IRS, AT&T, and others. There's really, I would say, a large network of partners that are working on this together. We work with BPD's community service officers, who I know you're going to hear about their work, but I really want to give them a shout out. Actually, last night I was down at the Cedar Grove Civic Association, and the CSOs always do their report. So the CSO there was giving his report, and then he said, "But I want to talk for a minute about scams." And I was like, "Oh, this is perfect timing." And he got to give an update on scams and things for folks to watch out for. So I know that they do. You'll hear about their regular workshops, but they kind of do it on the fly all the time. This educating. We also work closely with the Office of Consumer Affairs and Licensing and refer cases that require further investigation, especially those related to credit card and utility fraud. We see all sorts of different types of fraud. We provide regular scam education in our seniority magazine, and we've been trying to highlight a different scam in every issue so that we have kind of regular scam communication going on out there. We also have AmeriCorps seniors RSVP volunteers who are trained in a program called Money Smarts for older adults. And if folks are listening and anyone wants to be a volunteer, we're actually recruiting more volunteers specifically for this volunteer effort, but they get trained in this curriculum which helps identify scams targeting older populations, recognizing and reducing the risk of financial exploitation, and guarding against identity theft. And so the volunteers go out and they offer this program to groups of older adults in the community. We work closely with people that have been scammed, helping them navigate networks to not only report the scam, but also to see if anything can be done. So we work with BPD, the Attorney General's Office, Consumer Affairs, Greater Boston Legal Services, Elder Protective Services, credit card companies, and kind of anywhere the scam might take us, depending on what type it is. I mentioned before that there's a lot of partners involved in this effort to prevent and address scams. And so given that folks may be listening, I just wanted to highlight a couple of other ones that aren't here today. First of all, the Suffolk County DA's office has a program called Fraud Fighters, which is a scam education program, and they're out there educating groups of older adults across Boston. And the second folks that I wanted to call out are our partners at AARP. They have a national AARP Fraud Watch network. And they have a fraud watch hotline where you can report scams, and they are able to track scams in that way and see what's trending in different areas of the country. They also educate about scams, sending out regular emails highlighting scams in their magazine, and they train community volunteers to talk to groups of older people. And then because there's always new scams out there, they've submitted a bill at the state level that's new this legislative cycle that's focused on regulation of cryptocurrency kiosk machines, which is one of the new frontiers for scammers. So scammers are creative and change their tactics regularly, but by working together, and it really does take us all, we can continue to empower older adults with the knowledge and resources that they need to stay safe. So thank you for your time and your commitment to this effort.
Thank you so much. And I do just want to uplift before we hear from the police that I do feel, like you mentioned, the district level CSOs are doing a great job, but went to several of the comp stats that you have across the city, and just those numbers are pretty frightening. So thank you, and we're looking forward to, and also not just the numbers are frightening, but I do believe that you're doing a good job letting more people know the communication is out there. So one of the reasons that really motivated us to make sure we have this hearing, to make sure we can reach more seniors out there and their families, because a lot of times, you know, the families have to step in if they can help them.
I'm going to go a little out of order for a second. I'll go before Deputy Grant. Good afternoon, Committee Chair Murphy, City Councilors, fellow panelists, and community members listening online or in the audience. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today regarding our efforts to address fraud, particularly fraud targeting the vulnerable populations such as the elderly. Unfortunately, this is a significant problem in Boston and across the country. We've seen it just growing and growing. In 2024 alone, fraud reported by elders in Boston resulted in over $12 million in loss to them. And that's for people who reported it. There's probably a lot that haven't reported it. The Boston Police Department works closely with the Age Strong Commission, the Licensing Board, and our many partners to prevent victimization and to hold offenders accountable. The role of the BRIC in particular in this topic is to analyze crime, intelligence data, in order to identify trends and patterns that can be used by detectives to guide investigations, and to produce advisories and other information that can be used to educate the public and to prevent fraud and victimization. I welcome your questions regarding trends we are seeing, how we work with various partners, and recommendations for steps that can be taken proactively to combat these serious crimes. Thank you, and I look forward to the rest of the session.
Thank you, and good afternoon again. Thank you for having us here today. I just want to talk a little bit about what's going on with our seniors that are near and dear to us. In the Bureau of Community Engagement, we have several officers and civilians that work closely with the district community service officers. So with that being said, we have several senior events that we work with the seniors, but we also talk about the scams that are going on whenever we have an opportunity, whether it's a residential meeting in a residential building or in a residential neighborhood or a neighborhood walk, weather permitting, of course. We try to talk to seniors about what's going on and what they're hearing. And that's always a good opportunity for the officers to find out, but also to do the reports. As Deputy Cahill mentioned, that's what we're just hearing that's reported. We know that there's sometimes that some things are going unreported because of, sometimes they think it's an inconvenience to us as the police to take these reports, but we remind the seniors and anyone in the community, we take this very seriously and we have to take these reports. We have a lot of Coffee with the Cop events. That's another opportunity to talk to people about scams. At these Coffee with Cops and also the residential meetings, we tend to bring out a lot of flyers. I'm always happy when people take the flyers and then when they ask for more so they can bring them back to their community or their friends. Our Faith in Blue event, which is where we got introduced with AT&T FirstNet, even at that event, we try to have as much information. And at one of the Faith in Blue events, someone had asked me for my business card so she could tell her friend to call me about a scam. Unfortunately, I never got the call, but I did tell her to go to the district station to file the report. Note, when we have our National Night Out, same thing. We try to engage citywide with everyone just to talk about what's going on. And that's a good way for folks to see us in the community as well. Social events that we go to with Age Strong, the Community Connection, the holiday event, that's a wonderful event we've been a part of. We've had a couple of presentations, and even afterwards, some of the residents have reached out to us and the other officers talking about scams or wanting more information to bring back. Just as we mentioned, as Commissioner O'Shea mentioned, the workshops the community service officers are having, they're hosting them on a regular basis and they're trying to get this information out. Last night, I had officers in the community, they were handing out the scam alert and they were putting them in 40 different locations throughout the city where they have the crypto ATMs. That way the awareness is, it's definitely elevated, but also we're gonna try and spread the word as much as possible. We also talk about the unfortunate romance scam, the grandchildren scam, the Medicare scam, which is happening to all of us, including me 4 or 5 times a day. I think it's about my elderly mom, and it's not. It's about Off Me Medicare, which we know is fraudulent. The IRS scam just came back again last month, so we're reminding folks about that, and obviously the home improvement scams. We have got to, get as much word out as we can. I'm glad we're having this meeting, and I hope those at home know that we're here to help you. Please tell a friend or please contact us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before you go, I do just want to say we've been joined by Councilor Fernandez-Anderson and Councilor Louis-Jean. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you very much. Thank you, Councilor Murphy and Councilor Flynn and Councilor Mejia for convening this hearing. Just by way of introduction, I oversee public policy strategy and community engagement for AT&T. And just by way of background, prior to AT&T, I worked as an assistant attorney general here in Massachusetts for 5 years and got to work as a special assistant district attorney in the Roxbury division. But I'm also sort of thinking, both my parents are retired Boston public school educators, and I think that might be maybe just as relevant.
I knew I liked you when I met you in Charlestown that day. Yeah.
And my sister currently works at the Orenberger, so I think maybe this is my way of fulfilling the family vocation in some ways. But this work that we've been doing is really something I started when I came to AT&T in 2018. It's a company program that we call our Cyber Aware program, and we've tweaked it a little bit in the years past, and it's really focused on digital literacy and scam avoidance with more of a bent towards technology and how that comes in, because it's really been, as we all know, just anecdotally, a huge prevalent increase. And particularly, we've been very lucky for the past year or so to be collaborating with the Boston Police Department and bringing this to different districts. And it might be worth speaking about that briefly, because I think it might be a good kind of roadmap or we've found it very instructive about ways to get in touch with seniors and support it that way. And it all really began, interesting enough, because of our work with Commissioner Shea. So we've had an event that we put on City Hall for 30 years called the Holiday Connections event, and we asked the BPD to participate, and it's been getting bigger and bigger every year. And from that, we kind of started a conversation about ways we could work together. They had brought some officers in to speak about some senior safety tips, because we had added into the program. Previously, it had just been, we set up international calling. We provided breakfast and lunch for the city seniors in coordination with the Age Strong Commission as part of our effort to give back to the community. And then because of all the stuff we were seeing, because of the work we were doing with Cyber Aware, we added into the day our safety training program that was really designed to help seniors deal with this proliferation of scams. And so, since then, we really started the program in earnest with the community officers in 2024. And in 2024, we held 15 different events with community officers throughout the city of Boston. We actually have had 2 additional ones in 2025. And we have our 18th event scheduled for March 13th, actually fittingly back at the same place at the Mildred Ave BCYF facility at Mattapan, at the same place that we started a year ago. And we've been in 7 of the 11 districts, B3, C11, E5, A1, D4, D14, C6. Our goal is to get to all of the districts this year, get to all of the neighborhoods in Boston, hopefully in 2025. And with these 17 events we've done, we've estimated that we've reached over 500 senior citizens here in Boston and provide them with the information. And I think because of the way we've deployed it, the value in it is that it's relatively simple. I don't think anyone would ever confuse me for a high-tech person. And I think counterintuitively, I think that helps for purposes of this program. But it's simple, it's accessible, it's relevant, it's free. It's entirely agnostic as to the provider, so we provide information that's relevant whether or not you're an AT&T customer, and we provide wireless information, we provide information for folks' home internet connections, and we are really trying to address the full scope of digital literacy for seniors. And so the theme of the presentation is called Connecting with Confidence, because we're effectively trying to teach people how to almost speak a foreign language, right? And so we really are trying to take out some of the stress related to that and increase folks' confidence. So the first part of it, we deal with them as consumers, so we teach them really how cell phone plans work, help them understand the ways they can save money, again, irrespective of provider. And then we kind of go into our second part of the program, which is called Connecting with Vigilance, where we get more into the cybersecurity aspect of it. And the cybersecurity part really kind of focuses on how they connect to the internet. And it's really, when we started this program, we'd do it in a room of 30 seniors, and there would maybe be 3 that had a smartphone. Everyone else, there was 15 people that had a flip phone, and then everyone else came because they heard I was bringing coffee and donuts, and I didn't take it personally, like that was
They like
great,
their food.
whatever, right? And so, and since really the pandemic and in the last few years when we started doing this in person, we've noticed that those statistics have effectively flipped. So when we go to the rooms now with the officers and when we do our Holiday Connections event, almost everyone has a smartphone, and that creates different problems. So we're really trying to deal with those kind of changing dynamics. And, for example, we're teaching people what data is, how that works, and then we're going into making sure you have passwords, how to create passwords that are effective for you. We kind of cover all of those different things, and then we get into, again, trying to keep things simple, we get into those active scams that we see that are alluded to, whether it's the grandparent scam, this fast lane scam. And rather than, the way we approach it, that we think is helpful is that rather than trying to explain every single scam that could be coming up, we try to teach them the tricks that are being deployed to get them to get scammed, right? So rather than try to cover the whole infield with what it could be, we say, no, there's basically a few tricks that they're trying to do, and if you control your information and you verify, that's going to protect you against the lion's share of the scams. And so I think that helps kind of take the temperature down. People don't think that they're going to need a PhD in computer science coming out of our 45-minute presentation. Like, it's very much geared towards the skills and experiences they have. We focus on common sense. If things are too good to be true, they are. And then we teach them ways to kind of implement that and the tricks that they need. And we've found it to be, pretty well received and pretty successful. Like, we've done it repeatedly with a lot of officers who I think see the value in it as well. So, we really look forward to continuing this in 2025. I really enjoy doing it. It's a really rewarding way to give back, and I think it's a big problem. And the way we see it is that we're kind of like preventative medicine, so that you don't have to get the police involved, you don't have to suffer these losses. If we can give you a little bit of boost with trying to deal with this, a little more confidence, a little more awareness, and a few easily digestible and replicable skills and tricks that will hopefully keep seniors safe. So, happy to continue to engage in the city on this and continue to work to help, both Commissioner Shea and the police and the mayor's office with this really important topic. So thank you again for having me.
Awesome, thank you. I'll go to my colleagues now for questions. Councilor Flynn.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy, Councilor Mejia, my other colleagues that are here as well. First, I want to say thank you to the administration that is here, and also to Edmund from AT&T for the important work that you're doing, helping our seniors across Boston. Commissioner Shea, and then I'm going to ask Commissioner Shea, and then I'll ask Jerry, Deputy Superintendent Cahill, the same question. Commissioner, you mentioned cryptocurrency. And for the people at home that are watching this on television, can you explain what that scam is, and how it might impact the elderly? And then I'll ask the deputy maybe if he has any tips on how not to be a victim of that.
Yeah, I can attempt. I will say that I'm kind of new learning about this. I learned about it the other day when I was 2 days ago when I was meeting with AARP. So I think our BPD friends may have more, but so my understanding is that there are kiosks where you can buy Bitcoin.
Okay.
And that that people will, scammer will make a connection and say, you know, whatever it is, they form a relationship. They somehow say then that they need money, and where they might, in previous times might have said, you know, can you go get me $1,000 in gift cards and send it to me? Now they may say, I need you to go to the kiosk and get me Bitcoin and send that to me. So I think it's just another kind of, and the ATMs or whatever are not regulated in the same kind of a way, correct, that a money ATM is. And so I think it's harder to trace maybe where that money is going. Am I correct?
Correct, pretty much.
Okay. Would you like to fill
Sure.
in?
Like Chief Shea said, that it's becoming a very huge issue, the Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency scamming. Recently, we've seen it in our office. We have 2 analysts assigned to financial crimes as well as pretty much a detective that is one of his major crimes he looks at. Which recently we've located approximately 40 Bitcoin ATMs around within the city. I think it's 40 exactly. We actually are in the process. We're making a flyer up where we're going to place out these ATMs. It's pretty much a scam alert, making sure that there's going to be some writing on it. Thanks to Deputy Grant, she's got it already out to the CSOs and stuff like that to get to the elderly as well. So we're definitely looking at this much harder in making sure that it's being looked at. If someone goes to an ATM, a Bitcoin ATM, they know, hey, make sure this is legit before you do it. We've seen cases like we've said there, someone may form a relationship with someone and then said, hey, I have this great investment to do. Why don't you give me $100,000 in Bitcoin and we can double that quickly? Things like that. So we're trying to inform the public more and more, especially on the Bitcoin side, that make sure this is legit, this person, or it's a legit company that you're doing this with. So it is becoming a very big issue.
Thank you, Deputy, and thank you, Commissioner. Maybe as a follow-up, Edmund, I know you've been talking to residents across the city and having coffee and talking to them about ways that they can prevent being a victim of fraud. Have you heard about this, and have you heard any stories from residents, and what is your advice?
Well, we haven't heard the Bitcoin scam come up yet in one of our kind of hearings or not hearings, workshops, I would say. I think that's a little. We sort of focus on helping seniors identify problematic emails that come in or text messages or phone calls. And so part of what we focus on more of is controlling the flow of information. So they'll try to confuse them and say, oh, it's your bank calling. So give us your account number.
Oh, yeah.
And we try to say, okay, well, let's stop for a second, hang up the phone and verify and call the bank yourself. Once they've been, and we also really stress to folks, if you're not sure who these folks are, hang up the phone and don't talk to them because nothing good will come of that. I'm just not familiar enough with this specific scam to know how we would deal with it in our workshop necessarily.
No, thank you, Edmund. Deputy?
Just so globally and nationwide, cyber and cryptocurrency frauds and scams account for the greatest all lost by seniors. Unfortunately, this is a very difficult crime to solve, to get someone to come to justice with this, being a lot of these actors are overseas. So our biggest concern is, the immediate concern is trying to, freeze the funds if we can find what exchange they went through. The detectives are looking at that. That's their biggest concern right now. If it leads to somewhere where we can see someone actually doing it, whether it's in the U.S. or overseas, I mean, of course, we'll try to, prosecute to the greatest extent, but it is very difficult to find the person that's doing it.
Thank you, Jerry. And I guess my final question I'll ask to Deputy Grant. I know the important role the Asian police officers play in Boston. They're exceptional police officers. The way they relate to the community in Chinatown, I see it every day. Are we ensuring that when we do some of this outreach, we are also doing it in Cantonese, in communicating in Cantonese, in other languages that people may speak other than English, like Spanish, but could we focus on Cantonese, because I have a large Chinese community, but I just want to make sure that we are also ensuring that they're educated as part of this process as well.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we're grateful that we have the language access communications here with the city. So anything that we have printed in English, we make sure we get it in other languages. This flyer was just given to me yesterday, so I'm going to ensure like the officers at A1 have it in Cantonese, and also the officers at T11 get it in Vietnamese, so then that way everyone knows. So we utilize them quite a bit. We try not to, overburden them with too many requests, but we try to get them in. That way, everyone that we talk to or we engage with, we have the language that represents all the flyers, so the information is there.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy, when that flyer is translated in Cantonese, would you email it to me?
Absolutely, sir.
I'd like to post it. I have a large group that I communicate with through my staff in Cantonese, so thank you, Deputy.
You're welcome, sir.
Madam Chair, I don't have any further questions.
Thank you. Councilor Fitzgerald?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess first off, Deputy Cahill, you talked to this a little bit about where this is coming from. You said overseas, but is there any more specifics or dynamics that what we know about where these originate? Just because I know we could say overseas or another country, but is there anything? Is there specifics, or is there Yeah, I know. I don't want you to put any.
No, I know.
Spot,
I know. Spot. I can't. I couldn't say exactly spot, but it's very difficult to find the exact location.
Yeah.
If we could, we would. We've had other investigations with lead overseas where arrests were made for different crimes, I should say. So if we could somehow find out where these, we work with the federal partners, especially, to help us with that prosecution, because the amount of money being lost is very, very significant, and the lives that are being, destroyed almost is very significant. So we'd love to be able to find out who's actually doing it, so where the money is going.
Is this through, when it comes through your cell phone or something like that, is that anything, is that tracing back an IP address or to that effect? Because I know, I had somebody was harassing me at one point, and we had to get authorization from the company to say, you have to give us your IP address so we can go through that company to trace back to see where it is coming from.
Some of it.
They wouldn't give up the IP address. The company wouldn't give it up, so I stopped using
we've had
them,
investigations with different Google or different places where we'd get subpoenas for different IP addresses or things like that. A lot of them are fake, to be honest. But if we can, like I said, if we can find someone that it's real and goes to someone, we'll investigate fully.
Yeah, thank you. And a question on, do we have, and I should probably have looked at this already, but is there a website or anything we have that has the graphics and pictures of what the latest scams are, so people can go, say you get it on your phone and you know what it looks like. If I could go to latest scams at boston.gov, /boston.gov latest scams, and just see, and if that's something that's updated where you could always constantly have the newest, and that way I could just look at my phone and say, okay, yep, that's the exact way the text looks like, and there's all options, and it's constantly updated. Is there anything we have to that degree now? Not to what I just described, but anywhere to go that we can know what the latest scams are on a city website?
I don't believe we have.
Okay. No, thank you. All right. Oh, I got it.
That's something we can look at, especially on the
Sebastian.
Boston Police's new website that we have.
Yeah.
That we can make sure that something like that. We constantly try to update things where we're sending information out, especially from our financial analysts when they see different scams.
Yeah.
We send out a lot of products on the newest things, what to say, what's being said, or what might be some phishing emails, the specific types. Like you said, the Easy Pass text these days, I've gotten them. I think almost everybody's gotten them. But it's an idea we can definitely look at.
Yeah, and even if it might be on our end as well, what we can do on the city website, so that people just understand they have a place to go and can look at whatever scam they receive, find the very similar thing online if there's a picture or something. I just feel like, especially if we're talking about senior citizens as well, it just might be easier to match up, okay.
And I think that's why with Deputy Grant's help, we try to get to the CSO's paper stuff. Seniors aren't, I'm not saying that, they're not adjusted to as much as on the online stuff, so we want to show them in person what they have, so we try to push that as much as possible.
Yep. Nope, fair enough.
Sebastian, I think, also wanted to.
Sure, please.
I don't know 100% for sure, but I believe on the Consumer Affairs website, there is a section that has information regarding current scams. I don't know if it's specifically updated to show like current cyber scams or new cyber scams, but I believe we do have some of that material on the Consumer Affairs website.
Yeah, and you understand the thought that whenever the next iteration of the scam is that comes out, and when we get it, it would just be nice to be like, okay, I'm unsure. Let me just go online and see if it's been, posted as okay, this, and then you kind of know how to treat it. Yeah.
And after the last year with all these schemes, especially the elderly, with all the amount of money, like we said, $12 million last year just in Boston that we know of, we're going to start sending analysts out to all these communities, especially community meetings, just for our financial analysts to talk about the different scams that are going down. We did that all of last year at all community comstats. There was always a piece on fraud, what was going on. So we're going to continue to do that, make sure it gets out into the neighborhoods.
Thank you. Thank you very much. No further questions, and thank you all.
Thank you. Councilor Fernandez-Anderson?
Thank you. Good morning. Commissioner, I guess my questions are more for you if there are resources for seniors. Specifically, there are programs currently in place to educate seniors about scams around home ownership or contractors?
I don't know specifically about kind of home ownership or contractors. What I would say to that, very specific scam and kind of how do you go about hiring a good home contractor and understand how to vet somebody. I will say that we have been working closely with the Boston Home Center, and we're talking about rolling out a series of workshops for older homeowners, and that is kind of a piece of what comes up with older homeowners. I think there's often worry about what steps to take and how to make sure that you're hiring the right person. And that's something that the Home Center does do a lot of talking to and kind of coaching people through. And so we want to make sure that it gets into some type of kind of regular workshop that we're doing together. And then you all do some looking into
For the homeowner, the home improvement contractor scams, I'm pretty positive I actually have pamphlets in the office that discuss how to avoid the scam, be able to recognize them, and the process when it comes to either signing and paying that contract and ensuring that the work is done properly. And I'm more than happy to put some of those together to bring down to the council as well.
Thank you. You actually answered my next question about how are you using city resources to educate seniors and working with Home Center. I wonder if you could go a little bit further into strategies in place to specifically for seniors with lack of adequate digital access or language capacity.
Sure. So there are a number of things that we do to get out into the community and make sure that we're educating older adults. So first of all, we use our seniority magazine to highlight different scams every month. We also have a program called Money Smarts for older adults, and we train our AmeriCorps seniors RSVP volunteers to run this program. It's a curriculum that they utilize, and they go out and run the program with groups of older adults in the community. We also work closely with our partners, like our BPD partners, our AT&T partners, the DA's office, AARP. All of those groups also go out and do in-person workshops with groups of older adults where they're educating about scam prevention. Because frankly, you heard Deputy Superintendent Cahill talk a little bit about the numbers, but scams are really and we need to figure out like how we get the scammers once it's happened, but that's actually very difficult to do. So I think we do spend a lot of our time trying to figure out how do we educate people about the scams and about the changing scams so that we can hopefully prevent those scams from happening in the first place.
Thank you. You, again, answered my next question. Are there existing programs that verifies, like specifically legitimacy? I know you're working with you said Boston Home Center in terms of working with them on against frauds for homeowners, but specifically on repairs with contractors. I guess I'm just interested because a lot of my constituents complain that they are getting solicited for contracting services, but they're not sure where they come from, and seniors sometimes are more trusting and allow these people to come in and then the job gets undone, or they claim, or even with renters. I've been getting calls about people renting property from seniors, whether it be a room, and eventually not pay, but seniors not knowing how to follow up with that.
Oh, so they're renting their property and then someone's not paying them?
They're renting property, but they're also contracting people to do work that never return to do the job.
Yeah. So I know that there is a statewide, there is a state database where you can kind of look up a contractor and see if they're actually like a licensed contractor. And so I would encourage folks to make sure that whenever they're working with a contractor, that it's a licensed contractor that's, is kind of a registered contractor.
Say they were experiencing this, could they just call you, and what resource would you refer to them?
Yeah, so I think we would work with our home center colleagues. I can't remember, so the list of licensed contractors is at the state level. I'm not in the detail of this work all the time, so I can't remember. It's either at the, and maybe somebody else knows, it's either at the Office of Consumer Affairs and Business Regulation, or it's at the AG's office. Does somebody know where it is?
Licensures?
Is that with the Office of Consumer Affairs and Business Regulation?
I believe so.
So I think, so my team works with people all the time to get them connected, but there is a licensed contractor. If you kind of Google licensed contractors, Massachusetts, I think you could find it, but we'd be happy to find the right place for that information. And that is where I would have somebody look to make sure that they had a licensed contractor. As I said, my team also works closely with the home center. The home center has been doing a lot of coaching for folks in terms of making sure that they understand kind of how to navigate licensed contractors and how to get connected to contractors that will actually do the work.
No, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. A few questions. Oh, no, please.
Just
Yeah.
on Councilor Fitzgerald's, we do actually have an alert scan for the community on bostonpolice.news, which is police.boston.gov, which you can see all the scams, some scams, they'll give an alert to community.
Thank you.
That's good. Also, I think it is important to see when that scam came out with the paying the parking ticket. And, I mean, even when I first looked at it, it did look real. And of course, when you have a few hours and you zoom in, there were obviously, it was boston.com or other things, but people are trusting, so obviously. And I do think the one thing I've always felt is, especially our seniors, but not just our seniors, they feel embarrassed, right? And then they don't want to talk about it, they don't want to admit it. And you did mention, which I think is staggering, $12 million. How much do you think isn't reported? Because you did, like, probably a lot more.
I would think a lot. I mean, like you said, Councilor, a lot of people just embarrassed that they fell for scams. You know, because people always ask, how'd you fall for that? So
Yeah.
I guarantee there's a lot more that just aren't reported.
And you're going to community events, which are great. I know we're having a in-person senior programming event. We're trying to nail down the date and stuff, but at the Elks. So I do think going forward too on the council, when we know we'll have events where a large amount of seniors will be, we should definitely reach out to all of you, even if you're sharing flyers for us to bring ourselves, if you can't attend yourself. But I think that collaboration would be helpful to our seniors, because we, our seniors like us to show up. So a lot of us are often with seniors across the city, so that's important. I did to you, Sebastian, thank you for being here. I know you stepped in for Carol and appreciate all the work you do. And a few of the things you touched on when you did your introduction, which I thought was important, you talked about Age Strong, which was the focus of today, but also the youth advancement. You talked about language access, and then you also talked about veterans. So first, thank you for kind of covering all that. But if you could kind of talk about the amount of like resources. Is most of it towards our seniors, or is it abroad across the board?
It's very broad, because most of the cases, well, I shouldn't say most, all of the cases we get are through the Attorney General's office, other than the occasional phone call that we get in. When we get those phone calls, we listen to what they're saying and find out what the issue is and how quickly something needs to be reacted to. Like the example I used earlier with the elderly resident in Quincy, that was something that needed immediate attention. They didn't have time to file a formal complaint with the Attorney General's office. Generally, if it's something that's not as immediate, we'll help them file a formal complaint, and once it's sent to us through the AG, we then work that case. But it's a broad spectrum of cases. I don't exactly know how many are specifically elderly or not, though.
Okay, no, that's good. Deputy Cahill, you talked about crypto being the greatest now. Is that because it's the newest and it's the hardest to track? Like, will the next new thing be, is that often the trend that the new thing becomes the one that people focus on because we haven't really figured out how to stop it?
Yeah, it's always going to advance. People are just going to come up with new scams to do, you know, and crypto right now is just so tough. I think, especially now with AI getting so big, that's, I think, right now, fraud experts are reporting that AI is going to be, is positioned to be a force multiplier now. It's going to be probably the biggest thing going. And it's just going to get it more difficult to find out who's doing it. Like I said, right now, we're just trying to make sure, if we can, to stop the exchange of money, if we can, to get as much back as we can for these folks. But it is very tough.
And always, when it comes time for, budget season, if any of you want to touch on knowing, like you said, it's harder, AI, new technology, if there's any concerns going forward, if any programs, we're learning a lot of our programs of the last few years may have been programs funded through like COVID funding that may run out. Is there any concern in your departments or feeling a need now as this is growing to have more resources?
I was just gonna say, you know, I think lucky at Age Strong that about 80% of our staff are consumer facing. And so with all of that interaction with older people, it gives a lot of opportunity, I think, for education. So I think, you know, there's always a desire to do more, but I think we can also use the avenues that we currently have.
Thank you.
I don't specifically know what resources were COVID funded or not. I'm happy to get that information though.
Okay, thank you. I know we are having a couple hearings here on the council, tracking that down, but if you know, that'd be great. To the police or,
So I think for the Bureau of Community Engagement, just being invited into spaces where we have an opportunity to talk to seniors, you know, we'll bring the officers, we'll bring the pamphlets. It's just a matter of being invited to them spaces. You know, we don't, you know, we're not fortunate that we have all the space in the world to host things, but whenever we're invited, we'll bring pamphlets, we'll bring brochures. Sometimes we'll bring food if we have it. If they already have the food, that's a bonus. But we'll come, you know, but it's a matter too of finding out where there's a need and where we're invited to them spaces. We'd love to come and talk and share, because it's important to get it out there.
awesome, thank you. We've been joined by Councilor Worrell. Councilor Worrell, it's your turn.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you to the panel for all your service that you provide to the city of Boston. So I'm going to take you up on that offer. We do host coffee hours with our mature adults, I think like every month, so we'd definitely love to connect, to have that service and resource that you guys could share with our mature adults. Yeah, I don't have any questions now. I'm aware, you know, of the program. Also, I know there's a program out of the AG's office and also out of the DA's office. I guess that would be the question. How do you collaborate with those programs that are dealing with the same elder scam? How do you guys collaborate?
So I know for us, it's been more, I hate to say it's been something like this, like alert, like something brand new that we come together. We're currently going to work with the district attorney's office. I know in the past they've come out and done their own presentations, but we're going to try and get, I know there's been a couple of personnel changes even with us, so we're going to try to come together. I reached out to someone today, I'm hoping to hear back, so we can start getting them at the districts, because a lot of the districts, you know, are unaware, because again, there's personnel changes, new people in the districts, especially the community service office. So we're going to try and get them in there. The AG's office, they've come out a couple of times for our Faith in the Blue events. So we're going to probably, you know, loop everybody in, because I think the more the merrier. And I think everyone can bring up different examples, which will help, you know, talk about, you know, other scams. Because sometimes it's a senior in a room that thinks I wasn't scammed. And then when they hear from someone else, not necessarily us, then they're like, oh my goodness, that was me.
Right.
That happened to me 2 weeks ago. I didn't know that that was a scam. Right. They thought it was legitimate. So sometimes it's better to bring in other partners.
Got it. And then I'm assuming like the best number to call is 911, but also 911 is like, I'm not saying this is not an emergency, but you know, when a senior feels like they have been scammed, is there another number to call, or is 911 still like the best number to call?
The best number, but for us, it's nicer when we have a relationship or they know us, you know, especially the community service officers, because then they might feel more comfortable if they come to the house.
Right.
But I do want people to call 911.
Absolutely,
I'm never going to say not to call 911, but I think even with this is why it's underreported, because they think that they're bothering us. And I always, you know, when I have an opportunity to say, you're not bothering us, let us make the determination if we can get somewhere there now, or it might be a couple of minutes because something else is going on, but we'll get you somebody there to take your report.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I will, one question, Edmund. You mentioned about the districts that you have been to. You're not in all of them yet. Do you, is there a way to expand that? And like, where does that funding come from?
Well, the good news is the funding is not an issue for that. It's just me going around to the different districts. So that's one benefit, excuse me, with how we've set up the program. It's pretty repeatable and low maintenance. So if there's basically a room with an outlet, I can go and do it there. I built this to be as flexible and as possible. So we're trying to target those other districts for the basically the first half of 2025 to see if we can get in those places. That's our goal. Like, we really want to try to do every district. And to Councilor Flynn's earlier point, we've done the presentations in Spanish, Mandarin, and Cantonese with translators through the officers, and officers have been wonderful in flagging for us, okay, this population is going to be, largely Chinese, Cantonese, and Mandarin. They would have the translators there. To the extent that we may not have that covered, we could look at other folks in our company that could cover different languages, or we would work with the police to sort that out. We very much want to make this accessible to the entire population of the city, and that's going to be something we're going to be looking at continuing in 2025 also.
That's good, thank you. Does anyone have any closing statements or any other information you want to share with us?
Just one thing for the record, because I know Councilor Fernandez-Anderson asked, so it is the Office of Consumer Affairs and Business Regulation that has the list of registered home improvement contractors. And on their website, you can check a home improvement contractor registration status and view any complaints against them. You can file a complaint. There's a homeowner's guide to hiring a contractor, required contract terms or sample contracts. So there's lots of resources on their website. And that's what we usually guide people to do, both to check and make sure the contractor is licensed, and also work with the home center for additional coaching.
Thank you. Did you? Anything else? No? Go ahead, Sebastian.
Just a couple of outreach events that Consumer Affairs has going on, or coming up rather. The first week of March is National Consumer Protection Week. So that first week, we are doing a couple of tabling events. So the 4th, we're going to be at the Dorchester Library. We're also going to be on the 4th and the 5th, we're going to be at the West End Library, as well as on the 5th, we'll be in Mattapan. And then on the 7th, we're doing a scam prevention tabling event at the VA hospital. And then, Councilor Flynn, this one seems like it'll be really beneficial to your constituents. On March 18th, we're teaming up with the Office of Consumer Affairs and Business Regulations in Brighton at the Covenant House. It is a scam prevention, and it's going to be conducted in Chinese.
There's a large population there. Yeah. That's good, thank you. Yeah, good.
Yeah, just one final thing. Sorry, Council, one final thing. Like Deputy Grant said, please, if people are out there and they think that something's not right, do not give any money up, or, like you said, cryptocurrency or anything. If you feel it's not right, contact the police, and we can advise you before the real trouble starts and it gets tougher to get the money back. So there's nothing wrong with contacting the police if you don't know this person and you think it might be an issue going on. So please contact the police.
Thank you. Do you have any closing remarks?
I would just thank you for inviting us. And one thing I think we're going to start incorporating more into the presentation is trying to get at that stigma that was alluded to. I don't think maybe we emphasize enough just how prevalent it is, and try to remove some of the stigma. We try to remove some of the other concerns folks have, but that's been something I wrote down in my notes here to really start underscoring in the presentation. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Flynn, closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you to the panelists for being here, for the important work you were doing. I think this hearing here provided an opportunity for the public to learn about what some of the scams are that's out there and some of the ways to prevent them as well. And that's exactly what you all are doing. So just want to say thank you. Appreciate the work you're doing. And Edmund, I agree with you. There's probably some stigma about being a victim of scamming. It's almost like someone that had mental health issues years ago. There was a stigma to get counseling. Now kind of that stigma is evaporating, thankfully, but I think you are right. There is a stigma for a victim of scamming, and they're hesitant to go to the police. But I think exactly what you're doing is trying to educate people that, it's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's even if you are a victim, maybe you can help someone else not become a victim. Then my final point was, and I again want to say thank you to Council Murphy, but my final point was I'm active with the Disabled American Veterans, and I want to highlight the work they are doing here in Boston, but across the country. But there's something called, and I think Councilor Shea, you mentioned it, and I work with my friend who's the Commissioner of Veteran Services, Rob Santiago, closely. There's something called claim shocks, which basically means if you are applying for VA compensation, benefits compensation, but if you are applying for compensation, you are somehow you find the name or number of a claim shock. It might be a lawyer, it might be a consultant or someone, and you would ask this claim shock to help you process your VA claim. And that is about the worst thing you possibly could do. When you sign the document saying that you'll agree to the claim shock in their terms, it might be only 1%, but it's 1% of your compensation, which is monthly, for the rest of your life. So if your compensation, just as an example, maybe it's $1,000, you're going to pay a significant fee for the rest of your life. My recommendation is there's outstanding veteran service organizations throughout the city of Boston. They include, as I mentioned, the DAV, but also the Veterans of Foreign Wars, the American Legion, and there's others, but they don't charge you anything. Those services are completely free, and there is never a reason for a veteran service organization ever to charge you 5 cents. They don't do that, the congressionally chartered organizations. If there are veterans out there that do need to access their benefits that they've earned, and they're having a difficult time contacting someone, you can reach out to me, and I will get you the number for the DAV or the Veterans of Foreign Wars or the American Legion. But to the veterans, please don't use a claim shock. It's predatory, and they are out to exploit you and take your money. But again, want to say thank you to the panel for being here, and more importantly, for the work you're doing, helping so many people.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Fernandez-Anderson?
Sorry. Thank you so much, Council Flynn, for filing this, and thank you all for the amazing work that you're doing around this. It felt like I was checking off the responses as you were talking, and so I really appreciate the passion and just the fact that you really treat our seniors with integrity and believe in the work that you're doing. Really appreciate it. And Commissioner, as always, amazing work. On behalf of the whole council, we love you here, and we truly respect you and appreciate the work that you're doing. Madam Chair, I don't have any further questions. I do appreciate it, and Council Flynn, looking forward to, in whatever way I can assist, to continue to advocate for our seniors. Thank you.
Thank you. With that being said, this hearing on docket 0317 is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.